A good Wednesday morning, and thanks for tuning in to Okanagan Country Radio, KOMW and KNCW. Healthline just getting started on this final day of June, this June 30th. And with this record heat that we're experiencing, hope that you are taking adequate care of yourself and those around you and your pets and all those that are in your sphere of influence. Big thank you to our Healthline sponsors. They are Mid-Valley Hospital, Apple Springs Senior Living, Okanagan Behavioral Health Care, Three Rivers Hospital, Family Health Center, North Valley Hospital, and Confluence Health. On this morning's Healthline, we have a pre-recorded interview. Assistant Program Director Joe Stenson gracious enough to do the recording late in the afternoon after the host's day is over. And it's an interview with Greg Macpherson, pharmacist, biotechnologist, and author of Harnessing the Nine Hallmarks of Aging. Macpherson says the future of medicine may emerge from tapping into the power of our cellular health. Our DNA, once only discussed in high school biology class, is now bubbling up in everyday conversation. Do vaccines really alter our DNA? Do we really have two ages? For more than a decade, Macpherson has been working in the biotechnology sector, specifically focusing on the aging process at the cellular level. Let's join Joe as he talks with Greg Macpherson.
It's great to have you here today. So, what can you tell us about your book?
Yeah, Joe, I'm a pharmacist by profession, if you will, and I've been doing this for about 30 years. But the last decade, I've been focusing deeply in the biotechnology area, and specifically looking at areas of our cellular biology that cause us to age. So the last 8 years, I've been focusing on something called mitochondria, which are cellular batteries, but more recently looking at the whole cell and starting to understand what's driving aging at a cellular level. And the book is about starting to translate some of that research and science so that consumers can actually start to benefit from the science, just by understanding what's happening at a cellular level and how we're aging. We can develop strategies to help people age better, essentially, than any other generation that's come before us. I think in the past, when you get to old age with good health, it's been luck rather than good management. But we are now at a stage where we can actually start to age consciously and take advantage of the knowledge that the researchers have made over the last couple of decades, and more importantly, more recently, start to take supplements that have been identified as to slow down the aging process.
Oh, what's the new supplement that you, like the scientist, recently discovered helps reverse the cell or DNA damage to aid in reversing or slowing the aging process? So you can slow down the aging process?
Yeah, Joe, I've got a couple of favorite supplements, and the first one is relatively new. It's called Hobamine. It comes from Himalayan Tartary buckwheat, and it's just a component of the buckwheat that's been identified, and it's able to support our DNA and so that the impact of aging and time on our DNA, and so it does it in a way that's not been possible before. It actually it's like an antioxidant 3.0, right? So it protects the DNA from oxidative damage, but it does it in a way which maintains healthy free radical signaling. So it's a bit of a mouthful and it sounds pretty sciencey, but it's an incredibly exciting molecule, and there's a lot of research happening in the States on this molecule. In fact, it was discovered at Vanderbilt University, and I think there is a number of trials being done around heart health for it. Even though it focuses and helps your DNA, it actually has significant benefit for the whole body, and so that's really, I guess, on the top of my list of molecules that help your DNA. But there are also ones that also something that boosts cellular NAD. This is a really key enzyme that's in our cells, and when we get to the age of 40 and beyond, it declines in quantity inside our cells. And what researchers have found is if you top it up, then it actually rejuvenates the cells, and these cells start to act a whole bunch younger, and that can have some really significant health benefits. So if I was going to pick two, those would be the ones to focus on for our cells, and it's a lot to go through in terms of just explaining it on a interview. But I've got a website called SRW, which is Science Research Wellness, SRW.co, which actually just goes and explains it for people really easily.
So, do people have to feel old as they get older?
Yeah, I think it's optional these days. I think if you are taking a healthy life strategic approach, if you will, and making good choices all the way through your adulthood, then you can these good choices compound, and you can end up in your later decades, 80s, 90s, 100s, and potentially beyond, feeling really young and having great vitality. And I think that's the beauty of what I've written about in the book, essentially, is delivering you a strategy so that you don't have to feel old in your old age.
Yeah, and what's the difference between our birth age and our chronological age?
Yeah, good question. So what researchers have recently found out is that we've got two ages. We've got our chronological age, which is the one we all know. It's the one we celebrate every year. But we also have a biological age, and that relates to the age that our cells are acting. And the biological age and our chronological age can be quite different. And so it's measured by looking at your DNA, and there are tests now, simple spit tests and blood tests, where researchers can start to look at your DNA and look at the level of methyl groups that are on your DNA. And so when you're aging well, then your biological age can be considerably younger than your chronological age. I was talking to a doctor just a week ago, and she was in her 60s, but when they measured her DNA age, her biological age, she was in her 30s. And what that means is her cells are acting as though they're 30, and it means that when she probably gets to 90 or even 100, that her cells are actually going to be just middle-aged, if you will. And it's really exciting that we've been able to measure that now, and actually measure how what we can do, as in we can take steps to lower our biological age, like good exercise, good diet, and certain supplements, and take control of that. So it's no longer luck. We can actually manage it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, I'm like 58, and I feel like I'm in my 30s, so that was a good question for me, too.
Yeah, you sound like you're in your 30s, Joe. You're smashing it.
All right. So it says something about blue zones. People that live in blue zones live longer?
Yeah, Joe, the blue zones are 5 areas around the world where the people have extraordinary longevity, and not just good longevity, they have health, a lot of health into their 9th and 10th decades. And so these places have been extensively researched to understand what the people in the blue zones are doing, which is different than the rest of us. And so one of those things is that they exercise, so they build exercise into their daily life, and it doesn't need to be kind of crazy hard exercise. It's just moving lots, and it might be that they do manual labor. It might be that they have to walk a while to get to the office or to their work, but whatever they're doing, is a reasonable amount of exercise. The other thing they do is they eat a little different than the rest of us. Typically or predominantly they have plant-based diets. Doesn't mean that they go without a steak from time to time, but they definitely have more of their diet is plant-based. They have the biggest meal of the day is in the morning, and they never eat until they're full. So, and really what they're doing is replicating perhaps what our biology is set up for. And what I mean by that is that we're ancient humans and ancient bodies, and we're modern humans. So, our biology and how our cells are function is really suits the lifestyles that we had 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, even 100,000 years ago. And so by aligning your lifestyle to what your body is and our cells actually like, it actually puts a lot less stress on our cells, and they last a lot longer. So, and this is just, I guess, by luck rather than good management, these group of these populations are doing that, and it has really, really significant health benefits. So, that's what they do. That's a wee bit different than the rest of us. And what we can do, and for now, is actually try and adapt our lifestyle to that. So, it's important that we exercise. It's important that we look at our diet and see whether we can have a plant-based diet. And definitely, if the one thing you could do is actually just reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, if you can proactively do that. And then the other thing which we can do right now is fasting. So just missing the occasional meal and being hungry, and that triggers all sorts of healthy biological pathways in our cells and our bodies, and if we do that on a semi-regular basis, we don't have to do it all the time, but if we do it reasonably regularly, it sets ourselves up to be optimally healthy.
Mm-hmm. And what happens on a cellular level if we overload on sugar?
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever experienced, Joe, when you have a chocolate cake, like a really rich chocolate cake, and you get about halfway in, you're loving it, and all of a sudden you just start feeling a little sick because it's just too rich. Mm-hmm. And when we have a diet with too much sugar, that's actually happening all the time to our cells. They're getting overloaded, puts them under stress. That stress creates oxidative stress. If that hangs around too long, it creates inflammation, and if that inflammation hangs around too long, we get disease. So, overloading our body with sugar is just one of the most harmful things we could do. It's literally a poison, and a little bit of sugar is fantastic. A lot, not so much.
Exactly. And I know your book covers 9 hallmarks of aging, but which is the most important hallmark of aging, and what is a hallmark?
Yeah, so a hallmark is literally a cause of aging, and they're identified by researchers around the world, and essentially what they did was they said, right, well, look, this looks like it's going to cause aging, and they went into the lab, and if they make this they aggravate it and make it worse, they found that it accelerated aging, and if they make it better, it slowed the aging process down. So they've identified 9 of them, and probably the most important one is back to that DNA we were talking about. When I went to pharmacy school, your DNA was we talked about as just, the instruction set for your cells, and that was kind of it. And then we pushed on to look at other things. But more recently, it's been discovered or acknowledged it's just such a vibrant molecule, and it controls everything. And it breaks 50 to 100,000 times a day per cell, and so we've got amazing repair and maintenance systems within our cell that look after our DNA. But, if you break 50 to 100,000 times a day, and the repair mechanisms, they're not as efficient as we get older. And so if we can support those repair and maintenance mechanisms and reduce the amount of stress that our DNA experiences, then it just slows the aging process down. It's like putting good oil into an engine in a car and looking after it. So things like the dopamine that I talked about just helps support your DNA, and NAD is a really important enzyme involved in the repair and maintenance of your DNA. So those are the sorts of supplements that weren't available to previous generations that we're very fortunate we've got access to today. And by taking things like that, then we're actually, I guess, just, it's almost like preventative maintenance for our DNA. And if you love your DNA, it's going to love you back.
Interesting. And where can we learn more about the 9 hallmarks of aging, and where do we get your book?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so if you go to the 9 hallmarks of aging, you'll find my book, ninehallmarksofaging.com, sorry. And my Twitter handle is Greg Macpherson. And yeah, for those interested, essentially the book is all about a strategy for a healthy, longer life, and starts to share some of the knowledge that researchers have discovered around aging, and gives people strategies in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, which just set them up to age better than any other generation that's been on the planet before.
All right. Now that you've written a book, what's your next pursuit of study with the cellular health?
Yeah, so I'm continuing to go down this fascinating rabbit hole of aging research, Joe, just because it's just such a fast-moving research area. The scientists that discovered the 9 hallmarks of aging have essentially given other researchers 9 significant targets to look at, to research and to identify how to slow the aging process. So this is developing. And in the process of writing the book, it really it made me understand there's nothing out there for people that actually cover the whole cell and give people like a strategy and supplements to do that. So this is the purpose of SRW.co. The website is to actually help people. We'll just make it easy for people to really just go, I can take these supplements and do this and get on with that healthy aging and strategy.
All right.
So that's my focus.
Cool. And I have another question. How much of having a positive mindset or good attitude towards aging actually affects how you age?
More than a lot. It has an incredible lot. People that actually age positively actually are much healthier. And what we know now is that even just having a positive state of mind reduces stress on the body, and that slows the aging process down and reduces the chance of disease. And it doesn't mean that stress is bad. Actually, a little bit of stress is good, but it's actually how you manage your stress. And so, you or I could have quite significant stress in our lives, but if we are able to manage it through exercise and mindfulness and just cope with it, then actually that's actually the secret. So positivity is super important.
I think that's what my trick is.
Yeah,
Being positive all the time.
It's a thing.
And good attitude.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, you got it, and keep the kid within.
Yeah. So did we cover where you can find your book?
Yeah, harnessing the 9 hallmarks of aging.com, and copy on, have a look. If you've got any questions, fire them to me on Greg Macpherson on Twitter, and I'm more than happy to answer anybody's questions.
And do you have anything else you want to add on to the end there?
No, look, I just think for people the message is that getting old with good health used to be just about a bit of luck and rather than good management. And now we've got the tools to mean that we can consciously age with good health, and it's accessible to everybody. And so it doesn't matter sort of what you're born with or what the tool set is. Just taking small steps every day, making some good decisions. It will pay off in the long term, and it certainly doesn't mean that you forego a life of fun. It just means just making small good steps every day, and it'll pay off because you'll retire with good health, and that'll have a huge impact on the people around you.
Okay.
Positively.
Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Joe. Go well.
And a big thank you to Joe Stenson for conducting that interview with Greg Macpherson, pharmacist, biotechnologist, and author of Harnessing the 9 Hallmarks of Aging. Now it's time to check in with the nationally syndicated program, Radio Health Journal.
This is Radio Health Journal, a weekly news magazine with the latest in health, medicine, and technology. I'm Shel Lustig.
I'm Nancy Benson.
And I'm Reed Pence. This week, growth hormone.